big news for Eli Lilly this morning. CFO Anat Ashkenazi will be leaving Eli Lilly after 2 decades. She's been appointed as Alphabet's CFO moving forward. Now, Ashkenazi joined Eli Lilly back in 2001. She's been CFO there since 2021, previously serving as CFO for several of the company's global business areas and helping manage the revenue windfall that we've seen from Eli Lilly's weight loss and diabetes drugs. So joining us on what this could mean for the company, we have Jared Holz. He's Mizuho's analyst, and our very own healthcare reporter, Anjalee Khemlani, as well. So actually, Anjalee, I am just going to start with you really quickly. Can you give us a little bit of the background here on what exactly this move means, how big of a deal this is, why her, just the bit of the background?
The why her is actually the question. I think a lot of people are intrigued by this move. It's been a surprise for a lot of folks. Anat has been with the company since 2001 and really kind of jumped into the CFO role as a result of her predecessor being accused of improper relationship with an employee. So that was a move mid-pandemic in the middle of the strong growth the company was seeing at the time with its antibody drug on the market for COVID, as well as the start of that GLP-1 rush that the company is now in the middle of. So really seeing that push is what has really put her at the top. And so why moving into a tech company? And we know AI, of course, drug companies are big there, but why this move and how this move really impacts not just Eli Lilly, which has been on a tear up 600% or something crazy like that in the last 5 years, but also then for Google, what does that mean to have someone with a strong commercial business, but specifically healthcare background? And I think that's the question.
That is the question. Well, let's ask Jared. I mean, you've been listening in. What do you make of that?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a really interesting move. I think the one thing that I've kind of been thinking about and then talking to investors about this morning is the fact that it's so difficult to run these pharmaceutical businesses, and to see a stock with this sort of outperformance is very rare. So I think when you kind of, add those two things up, for a tech company, a massive Mag 7 name like Google to be interested is really not all that surprising when you're talking about an executive who's done such an excellent job in a really, really difficult industry.
And Jared, I wonder about that because it is a difficult industry, but it's been one of the better performing companies with its pipeline really in a strong place. I know Anat has been credited with some of the moves with the insulin pricing as well as getting manufacturing boosted, which has helped a lot in the GLP-1 part of it. So this move is interesting in the sense that you're moving from one industry to another. What are some of the areas that could translate as a positive for her?
Well, I think just being able to navigate what has become an enormous company in Lilly, $800 billion of market cap, trumps every other peer by a pretty wide margin. Just being able to navigate in a business or in a company like this, I think translates well to large cap tech. You're obviously dealing with a lot of people. You're dealing with, industry and sector dynamics that are, always changing. I think that's one of the key considerations here as well. And when you kind of think about, where Google is and where Lilly is in terms of where they are in the chronology of the companies, they're probably at similar points. I mean, I think both are doing very well. Lilly historically well, obviously on the GLP front. But when you look at Alphabet and what they're trying to do, in tech, I think there are a lot of parallels here.
Jared, what about Lilly right now? How is this going to impact the company? Are they in a stable position where her departure may not have as much of an impact? We're seeing the stock not really move too much on the news today.
I think they're benefiting today also from some of this MASH data. This is another metabolic disorder that they presented on earlier today. So I think that's part of the stock action. The other thing I think is they're in such an excellent position from a commercialization standpoint. You mentioned improving manufacturing for the GLP. This is a drug that's going to have so many different treatments that it's going to attack over the next few years, including potentially some neurological disorders in terms of Alzheimer's, et cetera. So whoever steps into this role, I think, is going to have a pretty simple gig, at least over the next couple of years. Obviously, longer term, We're going to be talking about pricing and competition. Those things come up in many conversations on the GLP-1 market. But I think for the time being, they're in an excellent spot, as the market leader along with Novo. And there are a lot of biotech companies that are kind of, trying to position themselves, in this market too, but it's going to take a while.
I have a question, Jared. If the weight loss drug boom didn't happen, would we see this CFO pick?
It's a really good question. And I think so much of it is determined also on the success of the stock price. So if the GLP-1 movement doesn't happen, the stock is nowhere near where it is now. And I think as kind of, as other industries and other companies kind of look at the assortment of the executives that they can pick from, Lilly probably doesn't stand out as such a major winner. So, the odds are likely less, but it's super hard to say.
Right, it's like asking you to read a crystal ball in a different world, but I appreciate it nonetheless, Jared. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Jared Holz. He's Mizuho's senior analyst, and of course our very own Anjalee Khemlani for breaking down this news with us.